Yeah, there you go.
Oh, welcome in another edition of the NHA. That's No House Advantage NBA strategy show. Terry McBride's in the house. I'm Eytan. Tyler is producing. So make sure that you hit the thumbs up button, please. If you haven't already, subscribe. Of course, we have this, the Odd Shopper channel, not just for Terry here. You know, Terry does a lot of things for us behind the scenes, making sure that you out there have an easy transition if you have any issues to get stuff done, to just pumping things up. So we always like to appreciate Terry on and off the scene here, by all means, my friend. How you doing?
Doing good, bud. It's been a busy couple of days trying to get an issue rectified. We had 1,556 people tie at the top of a Yahoo tournament that was a free roll that carried a year of Awesemo access for the winner. So we're setting up a tiebreaker contest. Obviously, that
nice.
Can't be split 1,500 ways, but a lot of emails about that one over the last 2 days. So it's been fun just interacting with the people, and hopefully we're making everybody happy out there in TV land with that stuff. With that resolution per Yahoo's rules out there. But it's been a fun couple of days, a little bit busy.
You know, you're like one of two people on the planet I can say this with, and one of them is not my wife. I can promise you that. But this is actually a break, and this is actually a nice break from the norm to come and hang out with me.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, gets me out of having to sit there on the email console or do anything like that. I get to sit around, talk sports for a little bit, hang out with my pal, talk movies or TV shows or whatever the hell else comes up.
Whatever we could slide in there. Absolutely. Now, as a reminder here, everything is free for you on site on Awesemo. So as Terry and I go through our projections, meaning Alex and Awesemo's projections, they're free for you. We also have our optimal lineup page if you want to just see how to plug and play each and every lineup, assuming that you are playing a bunch of different lineups. No house advantage tonight. We always factor in, who's out. So if you see some guys zeroed out from over or under, pretty good indication to stay away from them, and we'll build tickets. And as we do on NHA, we have 10-point plays all the way down to the, I like it, but not too confident, 1-point plays. And looks like, just as we sort here, and we always like to start with the overs because those are just more fun, looks like we have a pretty good place to start, kind of in that high, maybe mid-80s range. The one guy, Terry, who pops out from an over standpoint, and really the only other play that would trump it would be one under, and that's Robert Covington's PRA. So why don't we do this? All right. What do you like better? We'll put your feet to the fire and put you on the spot right away. You've got the 89.77% likelihood of Robert Covington's PRA, points, rebounds, and assists, going under the NHA line of 14.5, or the top over prop, which is at 88.3. And that's Reggie Jackson going over his NHA 3.5 assist line. Your choice, dealer's choice.
I think we'll ride with the numbers. We'll go with the slightly more likely one with that 89.7% on the under on Covington there. The PRA, it seems a little bit high for the season. I mean, I know it's a, change of teams and everything. For the season, he's right around that mark. He's at 14.7 in 28.9 minutes a game. Problem with that is we've got him projected for 20.1 minutes tonight in that Clippers Phoenix game. So looking at over the last handful of games, what he's done in that. What did I do here? Oops, sorry, I clicked over to Portland. That's why he didn't come up. Let me get back to the Clippers here. Looking at what he's done in the last 5 games, I had this page all teed up, ready to go, and then I clicked over to the wrong team. I clicked over to his old team. So looking at the minutes over the last 5, he's averaged 20.2. So we've got him right around what he's averaged over the last 5 with the new team. And he's sitting at an average of 9.4 points, 0.8 assists, and 3.4 rebounds, which isn't quite going to get us there. So I think that one's pretty safe on the under. I think we can go with that one.
All right. So doesn't mean we're not going to play, because we have 9 other slots now to choose from. So the other side of it is the over. And there's a pretty significant gap between Reggie Jackson's total here versus really Marcus Morris, the next 3, before we start to dip into the high 70s for over. So this is your best shot from a percentage standpoint, the gap between NHA's line of 3.5 assists to where Alex and Awesemo have Jackson projected. But either way, if it's not number 1, it's looking like it's a pretty strong number 2 option.
Yeah, for sure. That's a definite number 2 option right there. The line's 3.5. We've got him projected at 5.29. A few more minutes than he averages. He averages around 30.8. We've got him at 32.8 in the starting lineup. And it's just kind of a depleted team right now. There's a lot of targets in this game for both DFS purposes from the cheap side of things, like Nick Batum was really popping on the DFS sites today because he's under $4,000 and expecting to get a ton of minutes. We're seeing the same thing kind of borne out here on the board, whether it's Reggie Jackson, whether it's Marcus Morris. There's a couple different spots we can go here. So I really like that one off the top for the assists. We've got him, like I said, 5.29 in 30.8 minutes a game. He averages 4.3. More to do, more time to do it in. I like him to get to that mark. So I think that one's a pretty fair one to get to.
All right. Now, again, this is where it gets a little interesting because we have to maneuver through this mid-80s range, and there are only two in the over category before we have to go back and root for unders. But look, ultimately, if you're rooting for something that's making you money, you can sit there. I had the under in the Super Bowl. I wasn't upset at all that it was a low-scoring game. So looking at this, Marcus Morris pops up. Two of the three, really. The next three are his, and two of those three are the lone 80 percentile ones remaining. So we can go back definitely to the under because there are a little more of that mid-range under spots with Derek White, Bobby Portis. We already used Covington, so he's out. Even Luka is popping up a little in that under range. But let's just kind of clear out the 80s in the over category first. We're at 84.5 for Marcus Morris P&A, points and assists, and then a little bit lower if you add the rebounds category in there, and then a little bit lower, although technically it's 79%. So we'll just stay with those two. Points and assists, points, rebounds, and assists.
Yeah, I like the points and assists one right there. He's basically getting there over the last 5 games, averaging 29.3 minutes a game, and he's been averaging 15 points a night. So he's basically getting there on points alone. In that stretch, he's averaged 2 assists a game as well. So you put that on top of the points, and he's basically there. We've got him projected even further than that at 19.81 points plus assists. So I like that. We're giving him right around his average, 30.9 minutes. He averages 30.1 for the season. I see no reason to expect that he wouldn't get to that or right around it. So I think it's pretty competitive there. I think we can go to that one probably with a little bit more confidence than the PRA. He's averaged 3 rebounds a game over that last 5-game stretch. So we're adding 5 to the total there instead of it seems like a little bit more to add to it from where we are on the points plus assists versus the adding in the rebounds there. So I think that stretches it a little bit further than I'm comfy with. I would stick with the points plus assists on that one.
Okay. And then again, if you really wanted to, I guess technically, I don't know if it does matter. Again, we've had this conversation countless times when we do the strategy show where the difference of 2 to 3% points is rarely, if ever, the key factor or barometer leading you to make a decision. So you do have Marcus Morris going over his 3-pointers made there, 1.5. I mean, that's a pretty significant gap. That's over a full 3 that Alex has projected for Morris. So while you're going to get over the points and assists and points, rebounds, and assists as well, you're adding multiple categories there together. It could be a rough night, unexpected rough night on the boards per se for Morris. At least with the 3-pointers made, that's a very specific market. And we also know that if it's Batum, if it's Jackson, if it's Morris, somebody out there is going to have to keep up with Phoenix launching.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one that you can kind of expect that even if, like you said, he has a clunker of a game, let's say he doesn't get to the 15 points we've seen at him over the last 5, the 2 assists, anything like that, it's still within expectation that he's going to make 2 threes here. He's taking 5.2 a game. He's making 2 a game over the last 5 games. I think there's definitely plenty of opportunity for him to take those shots. I actually, despite where it's coming down probability-wise, technically, I kind of like the chances of him to make those 2 threes a little bit more than I like the PRA one. I like the points plus assists on its own best, and then probably the threes out of those 3.
Okay. Now, on the flip side here, we have to keep working these 80 percentiles. So we knocked Covington out of the way right there. That was your 10-point play. Derek White now popping up on Boston, taking on the Sixers. There's something here that I love that I actually played, but it's not popping up on the under, so I feel even better about that, specifically with White. So I don't have to worry about that. You dashing my hopes and dreams about a player prop that I've placed already with White. But looking at this assists, points, rebounds, and assists. So you have your choice here. You can focus on that one specific market of assists, or if you think you can stretch it out a little bit, add points and rebounds, it may help your cause even more by going under that.
Yeah, and we do have a key piece of news that we're waiting on this game that could potentially influence this. Marcus Smart is questionable in this one. So if we see Marcus Smart not play, that could definitely change the nature of how these look on the board right now. But right for now, we've got White rather coming in 3.93 as his assist projection. The line's 5.5 For the season, that's his average from when he's been on the Spurs in 30 minutes a game. We've got him projected to go under that in terms of the minutes. And in this new role, he's only played a pair of games with Boston, but he's averaged, had it right here. He's averaged 3.5 assists in each of those games, playing 28.7 minutes a night. So with him projected slightly under that minutes projection, and coming in underneath with the line above what he's averaged so far with Boston, I kind of like it as long as Marcus Smart does play. If Marcus Smart doesn't play, I think both these probably come way down in probability.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good point here. So keep an eye on this thing, because if you lock in already, you don't have to. That's the beauty of it, is basically what you're saying. It's just to wait and see how this thing shifts. Now, outside of that specifically, 3 guys, 2 in the same game here: Middleton, Bobby Portis, and then also Luka is in here. And again, that line is high, noticeably so, pardon me, at 9.5 assists. Alex definitely likes going under that. We're still in this 80 percentile range. Malik Beasley as well, kind of that 80%. And if you wanted to go back to the Derek White area, you could always just eliminate rebounds and go under his points and assists. So we're still in that mid to low 80s range, even if you wanted to jam in a high 70s. I don't know if you think Malik Beasley gets the minutes to go over the PRA. Maybe that's a good way to target that if you like the under.
I never mind going for an under on Malik Beasley. He's a player who always seems to disappoint me on in DFS when I do wind up on him at a low price or whatever. He still seems to underperform low prices. Maybe the way to lock in a good DFS performance is by betting the under, and then the gambling gods won't know what the hell to do. But yeah, I think that one's pretty fair, right? We've got him projected 14.48. It's a 17.5 PRA for the season. He's averaging a 16.7 in 25.7 minutes a night. Problem with that, we've got him projected at 20.4 minutes. So he's not getting nearly what he would need to do to average anywhere close to that, let alone get over that line. So I think that one's pretty fair. And I think there's a chance, I like the Portis one. 10.5 seems pretty steep for his rebounds. He averages 9.1 in 28.8 minutes a night. We've got him projected a little bit above that at 29.6. There was some question about whether Giannis would play in this game or not. Seems like he might be bumped up a little bit for the rebound projection here. And now it seems like Giannis is pretty likely to play. So assuming Giannis is on the court, I feel like that's pretty high. If Giannis doesn't go, that one definitely comes down some. I don't have Portis' rebounding rate without Giannis on the floor in front of me, but suffice to say, it goes up and probably cleans up that difference. But if that projection stays where it's 8.45 versus a 10.5 line, I kind of like that one a lot as well. I think you can get to that one with a pretty high degree of confidence here. Yeah, and it's not popping up, meaning, and again, some of this is, I think it's just based off of projection to know where we are from a Giannis health standpoint, Terry. But if you can get, for example, and yeah, I mean, that game's off the board noticeably because of all of what's going on. But, oh no, actually it's back up. So Bobby Portis all of a sudden becomes pretty interesting to knock down a couple of threes. And if his over under for NHA, I mean, the books are going to have it at 1.5, but that's going to be seriously juiced. So if you can get that at 1.5 without the juice or 2.5 without Giannis, I think that becomes a really interesting angle here because of the volume that he should get from that specific area. That's an interesting one. I hadn't considered that. If you get it without Giannis, then it's interesting, right? He's taking 4.7 a game, making 2 a game in general. If you're taking Giannis off, does he have that upside to make the 2.5? Yeah, I think he does, because he's going to be seeing those additional looks. Just a massive amount of usage come off the floor if Giannis doesn't go. If Giannis is out there, it becomes a little bit dicier. We've got it right now. Yeah, and we've got it projected with Giannis in. We've got him at a 2.05 against the 2.5 line. So it's coming up 65-35 for the under, unfortunately. But that's with Giannis. That's with Giannis. Yes, that's with Giannis. Yeah, if you see Giannis scratch, that one jumps up, and I think we can grab it. Yeah, I sure as hell I'm not going back to the Chris Middleton well. I can promise you that. That guy's burned me countless times on 3-point props. But Portis seems to be taking a lot more of that volume, just being able to take up. Not that it's left with a void of Giannis specifically. I don't want people thinking, oh, you were talking about Giannis taking a bunch of threes. I'm just saying as far as being able to pinpoint that. All right, so we're now down, and this is kind of where we've been as of recent here, even with this larger slate tonight, kind of in that high to mid 70s range. So we can kind of go back to the overs as well. Look, if you're hanging with us, hit that thumbs up button, please. Make sure you take advantage of what's going on at NHA
no house advantage. You see Tyler has that up above the screen here. Use our promo code, $25 off your first deposit. Awesemo, AWESEMO. You can get going right away. We're building this ticket here right there in front of you. And we've already got the heavy lifting done. We've already done Robert Covington, Reggie Jackson, the heavy stuff, 10, 9, all of that there. Erica, 3 props. I'll tell you what, we have the prop show coming up tonight at 5 o'clock Eastern time. It's right here. So I'll give you one before we get out of here, but I just kind of want to tease that because that's going to be, Erica, specifically for you and anybody else out there that wants more player props and more betting on the NBA to kind of highlight what we're doing on Odd Shopper. So we'll definitely give you one before we get out of here. But is that fair, Terry, to kind of tease the other 2 for the prop show that's coming up 42 minutes from now?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't get much more of a perfect organic plug than that. That was really well executed. Well, nice.
Checks in the mail, Erica. Thank you. Thank you for. All right. So let's keep it moving, man. On the oversight. Oh, and by the way, that prop, and I'll give it to you after this, was Derek White. But back on the overside, we're kind of in that, again, mid to high 70s range. So we've taken Morris off the board. We've taken Reggie Jackson off the board. You've got Bogdan up there. Ingram as well, which is a nice over for his rebounds. And even Chris Paul. Look, Chris Paul is interesting because I just don't know if 10.5 is even a fair line at this point. Like our projection at 11.63 feels like more of a fair line for Chris Paul on a nightly basis. So anything almost until he bangs and really busts this, I almost feel like whatever you see a 9.5 to 10.5 projection for Chris Paul, you kind of just have to slam the over.
I mean, the guy's averaging 10.7 assists per game in 33.2 minutes a night. We've got him projected at a 34.8 minute mark. I don't know if it's per 36, but suffice to say, it's going to be above 10.5 since his per 33.2 is at 10.7. So he is there already. I agree. Our assists, that might even be a little bit low, the 11.63 for where we've got him right now. I expect that to be a pretty good game for scoring. It's 223.5 point game total in there. That wouldn't surprise me if that one goes over. I expect it to be a decent game for targeting some late night hammers, and I don't mind that Chris Paul assists line at all there. The other one that I was looking at while you were bringing it up was the Brandon Ingram rebounding one. 5.81 against a 4.5 line. Looks like a pretty strong probability there. We've got him projected right at his minutes average, and he averages 5.3 rebounds a game. So he's well ahead of that already in just the average. And with some size coming out of that rotation, we're expecting Herb Jones to start at the power forward. I just expect there to be a little bit more to do there for him in terms of rebounding, and that's going to be a high-end game as well. So I think there's a good probability of him getting to that one. That one's a 228.5 game total, and 2 teams that certainly can create a lot of rebounding opportunities. So Ingram getting to that easy total, I don't mind getting to that one at all. I think I prefer that one to any of the ones that were in similar range on the underside of the board.
Anything? Now we're going to go back to the unders here. CJ, I love this. I cannot believe this is still here. Erica has to go to work, so I was able to put a couple of props there for Erica. And look, even if Erica's lying to us, we don't care because we appreciate Erica at least hanging with us right now. So lie to us all you want. We still are going to reward the fact that you're here hanging with us on the NHA show. McCollum's 3-pointers. Now, this is only at 73.99. His NHA line is 2.5. That's where you're going to get it on the books as well. I cannot believe that the books are still, some books at least, are still only asking you to lay 105 on this man who is clearly the main option, rightfully so, on New Orleans. Shout out to Rinpack Saturday on the deep dive. He got ahead of this. I bet it as well. We bet it again. Over 2.5 threes is one of my favorite player props tonight. And although it's not the highest on the over category for NHA, Terry, I think this is one of those that we talk about a couple of times a show where your gut and your feel bump up the percentage point even more to validate the play.
Yeah, it's just one that feels like they've priced it so that people have one that they can pick off. That's a fun one that they'll like. It's CJ McCollum. Everybody likes the idea of him kind of getting into a spot where he can be the one instead of the 1A, maybe. He's going to be the big gun in that offense, like you said. And that's been borne out in the 3 games he's played already for them. Taking 8.3 threes a game for them, making 3.3 so far. He is well over that already. We've got him projected at a 3.32. I see him cruising through the 2.5 that we need without much much difficulty, and he could obviously obliterate that if he makes a little bit more than his average percentage.
Okay. Just so, yeah, again, it pops up. Have to mention it by all means. I've got money invested in it, so if I'm going to give it out to anybody else here, I would at least like you to help validate it, as because you would say right away, like, dude, you just burned your money. You should have just Venmo'd me whatever a unit is because you just burned your money on McCollum over.
And I will provide that service anytime you need. You can feel free to do that anytime you're not sure about a bet. Just shoot me the money instead,
right?
And we'll call it even. You can even take the vig out and just shoot me the difference. It'll be perfect.
Now that I brought that up, you won't like any bet I ever make for the history of us working together.
That's right. Yeah, no, that was dumb. That was terrible. Nope. Yeah, don't want to do that. No, but look,
just send me the 100.
Right, that's it. Just send it. I tell you what, you can buy off the whole conversation now for a couple grand.
There we go.
But yeah, 75% on the board. I mean, that's, we're talking in terms of comparing to some of these ultra targetable lines that are in the high 80s, the 90s. But when you're talking about a 75% likely bet, that is a strong prop bet to make. I'm totally confident in the bet that you made there. I'm good to go with that one.
Okay. Now we have to flip to the unders here because I see 3 straight overs in a row, and you get a little nervous at that point. Like maybe we've neglected something on the underside here. We already hit Malik Beasley. I love the theory here that you can't go wrong pounding an under with Beasley. We took the PRA there. White points and assists. We've mentioned him earlier as he popped up in that mid 80s range. How about Drew Holiday? And really, you've got Holiday and Harrell, who are kind of in that mid-range area there. We talked about Bobby Portis a little bit. Middleton, these are all PRAs. So if you just wanted to focus on singular markets, you could look at going under Mason Plumlee and under Drew Holiday's rebounds.
Yeah, and the Holiday one just kind of plays the same way as the Portis one, where I think everybody just got a little bit of a bump with them expecting Giannis not to play. And with Giannis out there, I think that's an easy target. We've got Drew projected for 4.3 rebounds. The line's 5.5. If we look at his season average, he averages 4.6 in 32.8 minutes. We've got him projected to play a little bit more than that. So could he get out beyond the 4.6? Sure, but I still think we can target that one. That's the reason it's a little bit less confidence in terms of where we rank it for the under here, but it's still one of our better targets on the under. So I have no issues going to that. And then what was the other one that you had thrown in there? Sorry.
So we did Plumlee and Holiday under rebounds.
Yeah, Plumlee was the other one. They've just got a little bit of a logjam in the front court right now with Montrezl Harrell coming in and joining that team. So he's on the board right there as well. He's at a 7.5 with a 6.23 projection. Plumlee at 9.5, 7.94. I just think with a little bit of chaos, with a little bit of unpredictability in that front court, there's the opportunity to grab those unders. They don't seem like they're priced necessarily appropriately. They seem like they're set up kind of both for each of these guys on their own without the other ones in there. Plumlee, for example, 9.5 is the line. He's actually averaging 7.9 in 25.5 minutes a night. We've got him projected a little bit above that for minutes, but not enough to make up that gap. So that makes some sense to target that one.
Horford and Tatum. And again, I don't know how much of an indication this is to how the game will play out. It's hard to correlate to when we're talking about individual players from a DFS standpoint to an overall game flow, but worth noting at the very least that there's a pretty significant gap. And look, Horford's P&A, points and assists, 13.5 versus what Alex has on a projection. You can lay that out as far as, nearly that 2-point gap, but that's two categories. And even Tatum's P&R are lower. But then when you look at Tatum, that line at 27.5, Alex only has him for barely over 24 points. They've won 8 in a row. They have a decent to tough game on the road in Philly tonight. And just thought that might be an indication of maybe how this thing could play out on Boston's side, or if for whatever reason Tatum is just not projected, be it matchup or going on a heater and ultimately regression to the mean, whatever it may be. But under 27.5 is one thing. Nearly 3.5 points under 27.5 was a pretty interesting look there.
I tell you what, looking at the Tatum one, if you jump up actually to his PRA, it looks like they're adding a significant amount. They're adding basically 9 to it, 31.5 to a 40.5 for the PRA, and he averages 8.4 rebounds a night. So when you factor in that they're adding more than his average amount of rebounds to that total, I actually think we gain by going to the PRA in that one. It's a little bit higher ranked, 74.19% versus the 70.16 on the points plus assists. So I would actually jump up, take the full PRA one, and I would do similar with Horford. It looks like we're gaining a little bit of ground, not nearly as dramatic on Horford, but I think you can gain a ground on doing that on Horford as well there. So that's probably what I do with those, with the two from the Celtics. And that's a weird game. I mean, that's one, the two low ends tonight, 209.5 in that one, and in the Dallas Miami game. Everything else has fairly meaty totals all the way up to a 240, 244 in that Charlotte Minnesota game. So we've got like a 30-point spread between some of these games to target. That might be a better way to get some of the action for that Boston Philly game.
Absolutely, man. Anything else? A couple of minutes here on the way out, and you only really have on the night on these 7 games. We only have 2 that are double-digit spreads. So the Bucks laying 12.5. We still have that Giannis situation up in the air. Suns, of course, laying 13 at home. Some of that is just the Clippers come off a back-to-back where they beat the best team, now the second best team. So standard to expect a little bit of regression there. Is there anybody that you look? I mean, look, even the Hornets and Wolves, those teams jack the shit out of the ball from 3. So, and that total is the complete opposite at 244.5. So I don't know if there were a player or two, maybe either in a game that has a super high total that you can attack, or maybe in a blowout factor, if there is a guy. And I saw in the chat, Jordan Nwara, and I know a lot of that depends on who's in front of him. But is there anything that we can target, either a guy who could get some minutes in a blowout scenario, or just a player or two, Ball, Rozier, Edwards, Cat on the other side in a super high total?
Yeah, I tell you what, a guy that I like in the Timberwolves side of things, I'm just pulling up his season long numbers. For 3 pointers made, he's taking 8.4 a game, making 3 a game, and we've got a line of 2.5 on D'Angelo Russell. Projected for 31.6 minutes. We're projecting him for 3.27 threes made. It's a 72.74%. It's a little bit under the CJ McCollum one, but not by a lot. We've got him projected similarly. So I like both of those guys to get over the 3-pointers made if you're looking to put a couple of those picks together. Looking at the rest of the 3-pointers board, because that's what I sorted to, because I know that you'll like those. A guy that I wrote up on the site was Devin Booker from that Suns game. We're talking about a potential blowout situation there, though. So I don't love the projection. He's at a 2.5 line, and we've only got him projected at 2.69. So I think Booker falls more into like the DFS liking category. LaMelo, kind of a similar situation. We've got him projected 2.69 against the 2.5 line. I think I like that one maybe a little bit more just on the rising tide theory. Just, so much scoring going to happen in that game that maybe he takes a few additional ones, maybe he makes a few additional ones. So if I was deciding between the Booker and LaMelo ones, I would probably lean into the LaMelo side, but both of them fall into the less likely category in terms of Alex's projections for him.
And you do like Russell, just to clarify that.
Like Russell, yes.
Okay. I was looking at him tonight from a betting standpoint, and what concerned me to go over the 2.5 is that he only has 6 attempts in each of his last 2. Now you go back before that, 13, 7, 7. So 7, like I need 7 so that he can go 3 of 7, and that can still be like a decent night. So I was wavering back and forth on the attempt volume, but you've pushed me over. So I'll tail your theory here. See, I'm not even asking you to send me Venmo ahead of time for that bet being burned to the ground. I'm actually going to do the opposite and tail you, man.
I like it. And yeah, I mean, just looking at, I sorted it out to the last 10, and he does come down a little bit. I mentioned he was taking 8.4 for the season, making 3.
Right.
He's taking 7.7, making 2.8 over the last 10. So we're still there. Maybe it's a little bit tighter. Maybe it's a little bit less comfy. But I think just given his trigger happy nature in general, I think we're pretty fine there. I like that one still.
Yeah, nothing wrong with a tight play. Reminds you that you have a pulse. Absolutely.
That's it.
All right. We appreciate everybody hanging. Look, you're still here hanging with us. Thank you. Hit that thumbs up button. We're not asking for much. In fact, we're even going to give you a promo code to match your first deposit on No House Advantage up to $25. It's Awesemo at DigitalB21 at Shander Show for me. Shout out to Tyler, because whatever pick he used of my big ass hat, which I didn't even think was that big. Like, I'm just wearing this hat normally, but I guess that's problematic. It doesn't add up. I didn't notice it until you just like
stretched it out and pulled it down over like 3/4 of your head. It didn't look big before.
People love the hat. Larry C even said whoever runs Awesemo's Twitter's on their game, saw the pick and had to come in here and hit the like. Nice. So My dumb ass for wearing a big hat, and Tyler's smart ass smart head, I should say, for picking that up. Oh, he said he didn't even do it. It's probably like somebody else. It's probably somebody sniping a shot at me. We love it.
Can you be not taking the credit? Jeez.
Well, you know what? We should end on that. We'll see you guys. Have a great night. Prop show coming up at 5. Deep dive, then live before lock. We have tons of NBA content, betting, DFS still coming here. So hang with us. Thanks again. We'll see you soon.